Bernama Today, a daily lifestyle morning variety talk show that touches on current topics in Malaysia and around the world. Also featuring compact interviews with guests from various backgrounds. Don't forget to tune in to Channel 502 live from Mondays to Fridays. Hi there, welcome to The Nation. Thanks for joining us right here on Bernama TV. I'm Jessie Chahel, and today's conversation is truly one that concerns each and every one of us around the nation. We're talking about the education blueprint, and of course this is more focused on the higher education. And with me on today's show, I have three educational experts who will be commenting and sharing their viewpoints on the education blueprint. Now, first up, my first guest in the studio with me is Mr. UK Menon, who is a Chief Executive Officer at ESPACT, an educational consulting boutique firm or house, I can call it. Welcome to the show, Mr. Menon. How are you today?
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting us here.
Such a pleasure, of course, to discuss something truly important.
Yes.
It has been booked called the Malaysian Education Blueprint, which is of course released by our Ministry of Education in Malaysia.
That's right.
And it's a long-term plan from 2015 to 2025.
Yes.
So it's a 10-year plan. Yeah. But even prior to this, there were the former education blueprints, those additions. So we want to look through and discuss all of this today. Perhaps first up, you could help us to define the meaning of this higher education and where the blueprint comes into play.
Yeah. Yes, there are many ways in which you can look at higher education. You can, first of all, look at higher education as being part of the national education system. The national education system itself is made into 5 parts, starting with preschool, primary school, secondary school, post-secondary school, and then higher education. Mm-hmm. So we are looking at higher education as that level of education within the system that sits at the apex, at the very, very top of the education system. Now, when you look at it from that perspective, then you would say it includes the universities, the university colleges, the polytechnics, the community colleges, and a variety of other private institutions which deliver education at the higher level. Mm-hmm. That's one way to look at it, as a system explanation. So when you talk about where is higher education in Malaysia, where is it delivered, the answer would be, you look at your universities and your colleges and your university colleges. There's another way to look at higher education, and that is to look at the aim of higher education. And that is probably where the blueprint focuses on. What do you do with higher education? What does it do for the individual? What does it do for the nation? And higher education, of course, is an important part of any nation. It provides the avenue for individuals to go to the very highest level of education to develop themselves. Mm-hmm. And by creating that opportunity for individuals, you will find that the nation develops its manpower resources. It creates the opportunities for the nation to develop. So when you talk about higher education, it means you're taking higher education to a level where, in a way, you can say it becomes a very productive tool for the nation. Higher education produces highly educated people. Mm-hmm. Highly educated people will be able to contribute in a variety of areas, not only in the sciences and technology, but also in the arts and the creative areas. So higher education in that second sense means the level of education that you are looking at. There is also a modern third way of looking at higher education. And today, the trend is to describe higher education as the foundry of knowledge. Mm-hmm. You know, it is where knowledge is created, and the economy has become a knowledge economy. And therefore, there's a very close relationship between the between what is the content of higher education and what the nation's economy is going to look like. If the economy is built on a knowledge system, is built on knowledge, then of course the higher education system plays a very major role in providing the components, including the people who go into that production sphere of the nation. Through research, through the development of patents, inventions, you know, if you look at the more established universities in the Western countries, you'll find there's an enormous amount of output in the way of inventions and patents, which become the nation's wealth ultimately. So that's roughly what higher education is.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell, yeah.
Well, in front of us we have, of course, the Malaysian Education Blueprint from 2015 to 2025.
Yes.
Before we look at this, let's talk a little bit about the blueprint previous to this.
Yeah. Actually, it'll be interesting to go a little beyond even the last, what they call the strategic plan for higher education, on which this is built. And in fact, the authors of the blueprints say that in their third stage of their development, they looked at the previous strategic plan and they built a blueprint on the strategic plan. But I think in order to understand the importance of higher education and the importance of the blueprint, you need to go back to one of the most interesting documents that were written in the last 10 years or so, which is the new economic model, the document that came along to promote the new economic model in 2009. And in 2009, we had this document very candidly, without mincing it any words, being very honest about a self-examination of the country and lamenting, saying, you know what's wrong with this? We don't have enough talent in this country. And one of the things that the economy, one of the difficulties of the economy is this lack of talent. And the new economic model said, why don't we do something about this? Why don't we concentrate on the creation of talent? And as a result of that, there's a whole lot of strategies built from that one expectation, that you really need to look at the talent pool in the country and how would you do this. And education is one of the most important segments of the new economic plan, the new economic strategy. And within that strategy is the development of education. Development in education in many different ways, but primarily in bringing in a greater emphasis on higher education, on getting more people to participate in higher education, and also to move into areas such as technical and vocational education, so that the nation would have the full breadth of talent, both in the technical and science areas, as well as in the non-technical and science areas in the humanities. So if you look at the blueprint, it forms part of a continuum. It starts with the 2009 recognition and realization that we really have to do something about building more talent. And the blueprint is a very ambitious document, and we'll go into it to some extent. And this document says, yes, we can transform education to bring about more changes in the education system, so that there would be talent that the nation can plow on. Yeah.
Well, looking at that particular, some of the background that you gave, and now looking at what we have before us here, what does this particular blueprint aim to do? Perhaps what are the potential outcomes that can be expected?
Okay, it's a good question. It takes us right into the heart of the blueprint. The blueprint recognizes the tremendous strides that have been made in this country in higher education. And probably not many people realize that we now have about 125 universities in this country, universities and university colleges in this country. Most of those universities have been created since 1996, after the passing of a watershed, very important legislation called the Private Higher Educational Institutions Act, which allowed for the creation of private universities. So you're looking at almost 100 private universities and university colleges. But that's not all. If you look at the profile of these universities, you'll find among these universities foreign universities, universities of considerable standing. They have achieved reputations internationally. University of Nottingham, Monash University out in Sunway. All of these universities are international universities who have now come and pitched their tents, so to say, in this country to develop the educational potential in this country as well as in the region. So if you look at the educational system, we've really moved from 1957 when we got independence to now. The single most important change, in my opinion, that you can see visibly is the development of higher education. Not even your big roads and other things, and although they are important, but this particular phenomenon, this development of higher educational institution, and the fact that you now have 1.3 million students of that age group who are of the age to go to universities or tertiary education in higher education in this country. So the strides are considerable. You need to make a distinction sometimes between what even the blueprint overlaps sometimes between higher education and tertiary education, but it's not important. What we're talking about is, are there opportunities for the local Malaysian to move into a higher level of education after school? Answer is tremendous. I don't think there is today any restriction insofar as capacity is concerned, any limitation in capacity. Everyone who wants to do higher education would have an opportunity to do that, and with the support of the government loan system, there is no reason why every individual who desires higher education should proceed on to that. And my message to young people, and including people who have missed it at one point, is to go back into a higher education, or don't think your education is complete at SPM. Move to the next level.
And higher and higher.
And higher and higher. And that's right. So you ask this question, what do they want to do now? Now, having seen, they remark on the fact that you now have all these institutions, this tremendous enrollment, 1.2, 1.3 million. The question is, something is still not happening. And where are these indications? The blueprint uses two main indicators to see whether or not things are right in higher education. So they said, well, employability seems to be a problem.
That's right.
The employers are saying that there is a lack of graduates who can take on employable positions, job positions in industry, particularly in the technical fields. But it is not even that. They're saying that what new graduates do not have are the basic skills of communication, what they call the soft skills, communication skills, writing skills, speaking skills. And somehow this has been a constant complaint for many, many years with local employers and the public. And if you look at the media today, you will find that despite all of these achievements which I mentioned earlier, there is in fact a concern about the output from the universities. What's happening? Why is it that we're not getting the right type of graduates? Then the second question, or rather the second indicator, there are other indicators as well. The second indicator that the blueprint looks at is, it says, look at international ranking. How come our universities are not there? Although the blueprint, I must say, does not put everything on ranking, but ranking is another indication that things are not quite where they should be. Although the research output has gone up, the publications have gone up, and all of that is given in the blueprint as statistics. But these concerns about employability, these concerns about the university's international position, all of these concerns, I suppose, are what actually prompts the development of the blueprint.
Well, looking at the blueprint as well, how deep does it go? How far does it go, and what are the important areas that it's really covering?
I think it's it's quite an extensive. It's a formidable document. You may have some comments to make, some criticisms to do, as I do, but on the whole, I say that this is the first time that you're looking in this country of a comprehensive document on the development of higher education. That is not to say that there hasn't been other attempts. There have been over the last 10, 15 years, several reports about where education is going, what we ought to do with higher education. They probably never hit the mark, and maybe they didn't have the benefit of such a broad and deep scrutiny of the education system and a survey of the international systems to see where we have to move to. So the education blueprint actually makes a very ambitious statement, and this is the core of this. And this may be its criticism, but this is also one of the things that is interesting about the blueprint. It says we want nothing but a transformation of the system.
A transformation of
the system. Of the higher education system. We want to move away from existing paradigms to new paradigms. We want to look at a very efficient higher education system, which means you're also looking at the financial aspects. An efficient financial system, supporting the educational, the entire educational framework, which at the same time produces very highly skilled and knowledgeable individuals who are rooted in the basic values of the nation, ethics and the various other aspects that we know from Rukun Negara points of view. So you need to look at the blueprint as a blueprint of great ambition, of great scope, and it delves into the issues that it intends to deal with in fairly detailed way. Now, for example, it not only says what has to be done, there are 10 shifts of what needs to be done. It says, well, first of all, it says we have certain aspirations. We'll put these aspirations, student aspirations, individual development. We have system aspirations, what the institutions ought to look like. And then the blueprint says we will now use 10 shifts. Now, the phrase may not make sense to many people. 10 shifts means 10 directions or strategies that we'll put in place. 4 of these strategies concerned with the outcomes, and the other 6 strategies are to support the enablers of education. So what we're seeing in this document is an identification of the main areas that it sees as concerns. 2, it spells out what a value system and what an educational system ought to look like, and then sets about bringing about a transformation right up to the point where it also shows in the 10 shifts how each and every one of those shifts will be implemented.
In your opinion, having understood this blueprint and of course the ones before this as well, how closely do you think we'll be able to achieve all the milestones and aspirations set by the blueprint? Because like you mentioned earlier, it is a transformation and one that definitely, like all transformations, will take time. So over a period of stipulated time, and of course change is never easy. So how closely do you think we'll be able to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I'm a well-wisher for education. I spent all my life in higher education, teaching in this country and other countries. I don't see that there is any solution to anyone, any part of the world, other than education. Education is the great transforming agent. The potential for transformation is there. And I would even go as far as saying, if you brought in good, high-quality education, then all your other problems will just fall apart. Education alone has the potential to solve it. Everything else, everything from your basic multiracial community to racial attitudes, to creating people with creative skills, all of them can be done through higher education. So in my case, I'm a well-wisher. I always look at these things and say, I wish it would succeed. As I said, I'll reserve my comments and adverse comments or criticisms till later. But how close can you, how can we bring this about? Now, even if the strategies that are put by the blueprint do not actually perform 100%, The fact that the blueprint is a government document that actually looks at the transformation means that transformation will take place. We may not achieve all of the details that the blueprint requires, but the fact that we are willing to look at it, that we are willing to look at a change to be brought about, will make the change happen. And as I said, we have the benefit of 100 universities. I mean, you know, I tell people 125 universities, and don't worry about the fact that you know, that not all of them may be of high international standing or whatever. They are universities. So long as we insist on universities acting as universities, performing their role, and so long as we have this diversity, and there's incredible diversity. I mean, you have universities from Australia, from Britain, from China, from India, all participating in this little peninsula that we call, you know, Malaysia. So we cannot go wrong, provided, and it is not no single controlling mind, whether government or ministries will be able to do that. But if the message of the blueprint, the need for a change, even if not a transformation, can reach the people who manage the universities, the people who are the professors and the administrators of universities, and if it can also trickle down to students saying that really you're sitting in something that can take you much further, then I think the transformation will take place. The transformation must take place.
Must take place. Well, thank you so much for your time and, you know, sort of really explaining to us what the blueprint is about. We will see you back on the show shortly.
Yes.
But for now, I'll have to make way for our next guest in the studio after this quick commercial break. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Bernama Today, a daily lifestyle morning variety talk show that touches on current topics in Malaysia and around the world. Also featuring compact interviews with guests from various backgrounds. Don't forget to tune in to channel 502 live from Mondays to Fridays.
Kerjasama dua negara serumpun, Malaysia dan Indonesia. Hiburan, paparan budaya dan gaya hidup menerusi Salam dari Kuala Lumpur. Setiap Isnin, 8.30 malam, hanya di Bernama TV.
Hi, welcome back to The Nation. I'm Jessie Chahel, and for now, my guest in the studio with me is Professor Dato Ahmad Zainuddin, who is the Director at the Creative Institute of Art and Design, or rather the Director of the Institute Art and Creative Design at UCSI. Welcome to the show, Professor. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting.
My pleasure. Now, we've got lots to talk about, of course, with focus on the Malaysian Education Blueprint from 2015 to 2025. There's this term, quote-unquote, the new graduate.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could really tell us what that means.
Well, thank you for inviting. First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation to the Ministry of Higher Education for providing this very extensive blueprint. And I have gone through it, and I realized that it is very, very comprehensive, and it meets the demand of the society, the industry, and the students. And the policy actually started way back in 2007 when they launched the first blueprint called PSPTN, Plan Strategic Pengajian Tinggi Negara. Actually was launched by Dato Mustafa Muhammad, then the Minister of Higher Education, and it goes very well. The component of proper managing of university were all there, and the second blueprint came out, I think, 2013. It's called Malaysia Education Blueprint. That was a blueprint that covers both. Originally, it covers the primary, secondary school, and also the higher education. When the two ministries merged, so there was one blueprint called MEB or PPPM, Plan Pendidikan Malaysia, sort of PPM. It covers both lower school, secondary school, and university. And then when the ministry got separated early, I think late last year, they came out with a new print called MEB Higher Education. So all in all, you have basically like three blueprints starting from 2007 until today. We have 3 PSPTN followed by MEB and then MEB Higher Education.
That's many plans.
There are many plans. So when I look at the plans, I realize that it is very comprehensive. It is world class. I think it will meet the desired outcome planned by the government. And one of the most important things with these two plans running now is how do you merge them? How do you get these two plans working together? You know, you have plan for the school system and you have plan for higher education. There must be a certain meeting point, because at the end of the day, we are producing students. And at one point in time, the two plans should talk to each other, because you are creating human capital for the nation.
Right.
So I think there must be some crossover somewhere. There must be a meeting at ministry level or at executive level to look into where do they meet. How do you receive students from the school system into the university?
A transition.
If there is a gap, then I think there'll be a problem. If there is a lack of communication, there's also a problem, because we receive students from the school system. There must be a way where some cross thinking took place, so that the development of curriculum in the school system must be like, you know, gradual into the higher education. So that's number one. I think the point I'm making here is that you need to talk to each other, although it is now separate ministry. The second thing is that if you look at a book written by Professor Richard Florida, there is a need for us to produce new talents, new graduates who are creative and innovative. And I think the government has done something along the line of producing the plan for an innovative nation, you know, creativity, innovation, all that. I think the government has done that. But according to Richard Florida, it is very important to focus on developing creative human capital. Current statistics made available by Richard Florida, there are about 300 million, the so-called creative class. And this 300 million creative class are basically people in sciences, engineering, art, design, films, and all other areas that create, you know. I think there is a need for us to develop talent who can create, you know. And that's the reason why the ministry created a blueprint focuses on students. They wanted to make sure that students are not just job seekers, which is happening now. They wanted to create students who are job creators. It means the curriculum has to be reviewed. The way we teach our students has to be reviewed. The industry must come in and work together with us, and also to educate students from the school level up to university level on how to create jobs for themselves and eventually becomes employer. So if you look at this 300 million population all over the world, these are creative class, and they come from 88 countries. And the number one country that has got like almost 50% of their population doing creative thinking, creative work, into providing solutions creatively, it's Singapore.
Our neighboring country.
Our neighboring country down south. And they got one of the best universities in the world. And US is like top 20 in the world. And I think we should learn something from them. And look at Singapore, which has got a population of, I think, about 6 million now. Nearly 50% of their population are doing creation, are doing creating. And these 88 countries, for example, are Singapore, Finland, Korea, Japan, America, Canada, and all those Western countries. But the last survey by Richard Roder did not include Malaysia.
Oh dear.
So I thought we need to look into how do you embed creative thinking? How do you embed students who can provide solutions by taking a lot of angles, by integrating other knowledge. Currently, knowledge are not silos. Knowledge are now very integrated, even in areas like fine art, for design, for example. It's got a component of science there. It's got a component of engineering there. It's got a component of sociology. It's got a component of language. So I think future curriculum of universities, maybe schools too, should look into the idea of integrating knowledge. Because knowledge is no longer silos. And students, when they came out from university, their mindsets are very wide, very, very wide. And they can handle jobs from their specialized area to other areas that they have been exposed to. So that's about employability and how this 300 million people will actually move the global scenario in the future. Okay.
If we were to sort of really, look at what we have currently in the creative arts, of course you having that knowledge and experience as well, where do we as a nation stand?
I think we should look at Korea, for example. A country like Japan, devastated by war in 1940s, but they grew. They come back, not through natural resources, but through human capital. And one of the key area of developing human capital is through design. Awareness of the importance of design, awareness of the art side of it, not just science, but the art aspects of it. That's why you look at Korea, they produce this product of world standards. World-class products, like you can name it, I don't want to name it here because it'll be like promoting their brand, but products of world class came out from Korea, who has got nothing but human capital.
And so hopefully through this new education blueprint,
definitely Malaysia's education blueprint 2015-2025 provided that part where the need for students to be more creative and innovative. And I think what is needed now is to look back at our curriculum and see whether we can mesh the needs of the industry. That is very important. That's very important.
Yeah, a very important point as well. Again, if there is a demand, there will be supply.
Right.
That kind of thought process. It's one thing to have it in the blueprint and want to transform the system.
Right.
But how do you think this will be received by the students or by their parents? On flip side.
Right. I think our parents nowadays are very, very educated compared to 60 years ago, 50 years ago, when I was younger. The only jobs that we knew those days was postman, police, cikgu, and askar, soldiers. That was the only job that we all knew. But now I think parents are very, very choosy. Parents knew what their children wanted, and they themselves learn about the need for better life for their children. And I think children as well, I mean students as well, they are very focused already because of the social media. You know, they know things faster than we do, you know. They get themselves attached to new ideas, new knowledge, and they do global networking. I mean, students nowadays, I think, need to be convinced that while you are venturing or looking into new knowledge, you should also look into how do you push yourself to be one of the players of the new knowledge. And by 2050, the world population will reach 9.3 billion. Can you imagine 9.3 billion? Now we have 7 billion. And look at our roads. Look at our schools. It's all packed. And if you don't include the creative thinking concept, innovation thinking, how do you design products? How do you design food? How do you design transport for a population of 9.3 billion by 2050, which is about 34 years from today? You know,
a few decades away, actually.
Few decades away. I mean, we have to look beyond that. That's why I think this plan here, Malaysia Education Blueprint 2015-2025, is very good, I think, because when it reaches 2025, then there is another many years to prepare for 2050. And some nations have already developed a 2050 strategies. I think we need to look into beyond 2025 now and see how we develop our human capital, how do we create programs, and what are the expectation of parents, expectation of the industry, how do you create new industries. I think in 50 years time from today, I don't think we'll see cars on the road. You know,
possible
you could see cars up there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
that's the end of the traffic jams.
No traffic jams already.
All right, students, get creative.
Get creative. Get creative. Solve problems that is near you. You know.
Yeah.
Get yourself attached to other disciplines. Science is a friend of design. You know, its design cannot stand alone without science. Science cannot stand alone without the help of design that helps market products.
That's
so,
right.
Guys, students out there, if they're listening, and parents,
yes,
get yourself ready for the future.
The next few years to come is definitely going to change.
Sure, definitely.
The way we are educated.
Right.
And the outcome of that is that there will be a need to fill for the creative sciences, as we can call it.
Creative sciences, that's a big word, yeah.
Yep. Well, that's all the time we have on this segment with you, Professor.
Thank you.
But it's been very interesting. Perhaps very quickly, you'd like to say something to our viewers today.
Well, I think please accept knowledge as something that benefited society. Use that to benefit society.
And creative arts.
And creative art too. Well, focus on creative art too.
Creative arts and sciences,
and
that's
sciences
the next big
together.
thing. Yes, they work
Sure.
together. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time. We will take a quick commercial break, and when I come back, I'll be joined by my next guest. Do stay tuned.
Menyelami realiti, menjejaki masa, meninjau peristiwa, paparan kronikal kembara kehidupan, pelbagai keunikan juga pengalaman menarik. Segalanya disorotkan selama setengah jam dalam channel Bernama setiap Ahad jam 9.30 malam hanya di Bernama TV.
Menongkah batasan masa, mengupas isu semasa. menjadi saluran pelbagai suara. Segalanya baru dan benar di Berita Bernama TV.
Hi, welcome back to The Nation. My guest in the studio with me right now is Professor John Phillips, who is the Dean at the School of Education and Cognitive Sciences at Asia University. Welcome, Professor, to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. And of course, we now want to look at, we've discussed the education, how it was the past and at the present now, and now looking into the future of education, so to say. And I understand that in the Malaysian Education Blueprint, there are 10 shifts, and particularly 2 shifts that you will be sharing with us on today, the future of education. Perhaps we can talk a bit about that.
Thanks for inviting me. Among the 10 shifts, 2 shifts which I am very interested in and very passionate about. The first shift is called shift number 9. It's called globalized online learning. I think there are a few misconceptions about the word online learning. It's got to be clarified. It takes many definitions, many meanings. Some people use the word e-learning, technology enhanced learning, distance learning, and so forth. Basically, it is the utilization of technology for delivering education. Mm-hmm. Now, because of the internet, there's a kind of a learning revolution that has taken place. The learning revolution has come about because of the convergence of three factors. One is the internet itself, which allows delivery and reaching out to the masses in the world. All you need is an internet connection. The other thing which is wonderful about the internet is the large billions of pages of content which is revolutionizing education from all levels, from preschool right up to university. That's the interesting part. The third part, which is another great development, is the availability of devices. And the nice thing about the present situation, it is getting cheaper and cheaper. The devices from your tablets down to your smartphones, and now they're coming to wearables and all that. So it's becoming cheaper, so even the poorer countries can afford a device. So now Clayton Christensen from Harvard describes online learning as a disruptive innovation. Mm-hmm. It is disrupting the whole gamut of higher education. Now, we in Malaysia, we see the revolution here. To what extent have higher institutions, let's focus on institutions for the time being, the colleges and universities, how have they harnessed this revolution? How have they taken steps to make use of what is available? This is the thing, I think compared to many other countries, the more developed nations, we are still lagging in that part. However, the blueprint has got that shift 9 is very, very interesting. It has given even given guidelines of how to take about. Now, if you look at the young today, everyone complains about the young being addicted to games. They're so fascinated with their devices and so forth. But this is the generation that is coming to universities. They are born with technology. You see little kiddies having an iPad.
You mentioned
or tablet.
preschool. I'm saying it's,
Yes,
it's
exactly.
pre-preschool. They're already on
yeah,
the
they're
internet.
already a thing. Now, when they come to university, and if we in universities continue doing what we have been doing for the last 200-300 years, then I think they're going to be bored. They're going to be disinterested in what we are sharing with them. So this is where the government has decided to move to online learning, take advantage of the technology, and one of the pedagogical strategies which the blueprint focus on is what we call blended learning. Blended learning is whereby, and together with blended learning is another term used, it's called the flipped classroom, whereby it's already happening in many universities in the more developed nations, where the lecture is out of date. There's no more lectures, and people are redesigning universities, not using auditoriums and large lectures anymore. So what they're having now is small classes. So when you flip the classroom, the student does homework in the university, and he learns the content, and the body lectures are done at home. So it's called the flipping the classroom. Previously, in the traditional classroom, the student comes to university, copies notes. I always tell people wherever I go, if your students are still copying notes in the university, you are living in the Stone Age. I think the idea of copying notes is out of date. All should be provided for students, all provided online. And we don't only provide notes, we also make it multimodal. So you have videos, we have podcasts to enhance their learning. So this is very much, this kind of learning is very much in line with what the young people are learning. You look today, they're multimodal. They're learning through visual learning is going to become very dominant in the future. Well, it's already happening actually. And then you have, they're learning by listening by seeing. So this is the kind. So what we must do in universities is to adapt, rearrange, redesign our whole teaching learning strategy in line with the new generation that is coming in. The new generation that's coming in to learn. And the possibility is endless. So that is called the flipped classroom. So what will happen is that all materials will be provided on the web in different forms, simulations and so on and so forth. And then the students will come to class, and they will have small group sessions. So we'll have discussion. So you will see the role of the lecturer, the instructor of the future will be to act as a facilitator, share his wisdom with his students, and also by the process of encouraging collaborative learning in the classroom, you're also building certain employability skills. So they're interacting, and you're building what we sometimes call cultural competence in the young. So it's a fantastic methodology. So I've already seen some of it being practiced. I've been to a few seminars and conferences in Malaysia, and a few universities are beginning to practice it, especially the private universities. I was quite impressed listening to the young people present their papers on using the flipped classroom. So that is the kind of the blended learning, flipped classroom kind of a combination,
which we will be heading towards.
Exactly.
And which has been already stipulated.
It's stipulated, and the government is very, very serious about this in moving a higher education towards online learning. The misperception is that, I mean, the old guards will still say online learning is, no, we Asians like face-to-face interaction.
I was just
and
about
all that.
to come to that, saying up till now, one school of thought has been that it's e-learning, however progressive or cool that might sound, is ineffective. It does not provide the same kind of, like you just mentioned, a one-on-one impact. But that is, of course, the way we are heading towards. What would you like to say to those who still perhaps firmly believe in a old school delivery system?
Okay, I always ask my colleagues who believe in that, you just imagine you're lecturing to 200 students. How personal can you get?
It's true.
No one asks question in a 200, in an auditorium with 200 students. So we're flipping that. So, and today's generation is the YouTube generation. They are getting all their information from YouTube. It's mind-boggling how the young, as just now the earlier speaker said about creativity, they're using YouTube to create new things. They're using Google to create new things. So why don't we encourage our learners to harness the web? This flipped classroom concept or the blended learning obviously will involve a lot of work on the part of academics. It's easier to go and lecture for 3 hours with 3 sheets of paper and ramble away. And here you have to prepare everything for the learner. So it takes but the good part of it, once it's prepared and all it's done,
That's right.
it is available throughout, and you do tweaking and you improve you modify the content. And talking about the skepticism of online learning, you'll be surprised that in many of the more developed nations, subjects or disciplines you never thought would be using online learning. Nursing, they're already using online learning. Parts of medicine is moving towards online. What more with subjects like business, finance, accounting, and so forth, and it can be done online. So there's a combination of both. They're nice, and I'm very happy that the ministry is supportive of blended learning, online learning, and we are one of the few countries where the ministry has recognized degrees like my university is equal standing to a degree from a conventional university, as long as you meet the stipulated requirements.
Yeah,
That's
the
best
criteria.
part.
Another shift that we wanted to talk about is the shift number 2, as stated in the blueprint, which is lifelong learning. Perhaps you could tell us about that.
Yeah, lifelong learning. This is another passion of mine, and my universities like mine and 2 other universities, we have been established to provide lifelong learning. I remember some years back, the Prime Minister mentioned that our workforce of 12 million and 10 million of the workforce, 80% of our workforce has only SPM. Now, I don't, if that figure is accurate, I don't think it augurs well for us moving to a developed nation status in a few years' time. So there is a need to uplift the upskill, upgrade the workforce, and it is like coming back to school. We see this in Western countries, people in their 50s, 60s. In my university, I got a 79-year-old person doing a PhD. I just graduated a teacher, a grandmother of 65 with a master's degree. Now it's so nice to see these people coming back. I always praise my students. You've come back to school after so many years. That should be a culture in us, the culture of lifelong learning, coming back, upgrading yourself. And I noticed that a lot of people now are upgrading and improving themselves and taking on new kinds of skill from the web, from YouTube again, and from the web. And that's a beautiful thing. But they can come back and get certification. And I think we have got this called APAL, and it's one of the things emphasized in the blueprint, recognition of prior learning. So that will be taken as transfer credits. So that is a good thing. I mean, people coming back to transfer.
So this would mean that if you had prior
Exactly.
any kind of diploma or degree,
Yes.
then you could
Yes,
transfer those credits.
It's not only diploma and degree, even experience. You can quantify your experience and transfer it as credit. And universities can offer them a diploma to upgrade. I think we maybe have to re-examine some of our rules about accreditation, our rules about approving degrees and all that thing in light with this. We want to speed up things. We cannot wait.
Right.
We got to get people educated, bring them up. And one of the things which I'm on the committee of is the idea of MOOCs. I don't know if you have MOOCs, MOOCs means massive open online courses.
Massive, okay.
Open. And they started with Princeton and Harvard and Stanford started in 2012. And there are courses with 100,000 people taking, they're free, available. And there are thousands of courses out there now, which are coming essentially from the West. Many of the few from Singapore also, and very good universities offering. So people are taking it. They're just taking it to upgrade and improve themselves. But very unfortunately, our ministry has thought about how could we give accreditation, give credits to these courses. So our people can take these courses and get credit for it and transfer it to a program we have. That's a very good.
That's innovative.
Very, very innovative. I think we proudly say we are one of the few countries who are doing it, and we are on par with some of the developed nations thinking about it. I know it's going to be a difficult process because the quality of these MOOCs vary from institution.
But it is, I think, the potential of the exposure and the content of all that knowledge that can be shared
Exactly.
with you know, the global
Exactly.
global world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wanted to also come and sort of highlight the event that all of you have come to put together. It's something happening on the 14th of January in 2016. It's a seminar. So, Professor, perhaps you could tell us a bit about this event.
Yeah, thank you. We are trying to expand the ideas we have discussed today into a seminar. It's a half-day seminar. It's understanding the Malaysian education, higher education blueprint. It's a half-day seminar. It's held on the 14th from 9 to 1 at the Royal Selangor Club, Kuala Lumpur. So I think there we can delve deeper into the shifts and the underlying philosophy, policies of the blueprint.
Of the blueprint at large. As a final note, what would you like to say to all our viewers to wrap up today's conversation about the Malaysian education at large, and of course with the blueprint inside?
Yeah, I'm my passion. I'm in the area. I was in a conventional university teaching undergraduates. Now, over the 10 years, I've been teaching all adults. What I would very much like to see Malaysian come back to school, come back to learn. You can hold your job and get attached to any of our institutions, take a degree, take a diploma, or take a standalone courses, take the MOOCs courses all over the world, and keep yourself updated and upskilled yourself.
Upskilled. That is indeed the right word. Thank you so much, Professor, for your time, and thank you all for watching. That's all the time we have for today. Hope that you've truly enjoyed today's conversation, and to take advice from Professor, perhaps heading back to school will be something you can pen down as your resolution for 2016. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.